From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swalwell to Silverlink. Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
Wow. Boro got a win and scored 3 goals. Right.
What a day it is, Dave. What a day it is. Good morning. What a way to wake up the next day after a brilliant win. Doesn't it? It just, I swear the flowers smell sweeter. It's a beautiful morning. Good morning, Steve.
I don't believe it. I do not believe it. I sat and watched Salford versus Leeds United last night, and all I kept getting interrupted with was messages about goals going in against Bolton Wanderers. But well done, lads. In all seriousness, well done. And our dream is on. Is the draw going to happen? Are Newcastle United and Middlesbrough going to draw each other out the Carabao Cup hat?
Please.
A carrier bag cup challenge at the Riverside. We do like it. We do like. There's plenty of them flying around Teesside at the moment, I'm telling you. We have Macca with us as well. Good morning, Macca. You're being a bit quiet. Is that because you got knocked out in the first round?
You had to. Good morning, lads. No, I was
Morning,
the same listening to games last night, and all I could think about is Rye saying, Riley McGee's going to score. And
Feed the goat.
Sorry, and,
Feed the goat.
Feed the goat. And he will deliver.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got through, and that's good. Confidence building win for you, hopefully, and it set you on the path to recovery.
Oh, Macca, you can be honest. You can be honest, mate. You can say, look, you got through to the third round. You might pull a Premier League side out. I'm as sick as a custard slice. You can tell us. You can be honest, mate. You can be honest.
I really am. I do hope you pull out a top 3, top 4 Premiership team. So obviously it won't be Newcastle.
Ooh, good start.
There was some good, to be honest, there was some interesting results last night. I thought as well. I mean,
there was.
Ipswich, obviously, you've got some teams continuing some good runs of form, and it's always important because I think you've got to remember, it's all about keeping that consistency, and you've got to do it across cup games and across the league games. And I was over the moon for Salford. I've watched their story, followed the documentary over the years, and it was an interesting one last night. I honestly felt that the Leeds deserved to go through. That they had more possession, they had more shots, but if you don't take your chances, you don't go through. And of course, with the EFL Cup going straight to penalties now, it just makes for fantastic viewing. And of course, the goalkeeper had an absolute blinder. The class of '92 were there. They were there cheering the team on, and it was great. It was just a good night all round. And of course, the proverbial bridesmaids in the Premier League got knocked out on penalties as well. Tottenham Hotspur against Fulham. Great result for Silver and the boys down there. And what on earth was that strip Spurs were wearing? It was awful. Absolutely awful. I'm sure we can crack up a debate about strips moving forward as well. But yeah, look, Carabao Cup. We're into the next round for Boro, which is great. And let's hope that draw comes true. It'd be great to have that, especially for us on this show.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the result. Can we? I'm excited. Well, I'm ready to go.
Before we get into it, Rye, I was just going to point out one observation already this morning. We're only 5 minutes into the show, and that is how quickly Steve managed to get off the subject of Boro winning and then start talking about Leeds and Tottenham.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Tottenham's brown kits, all right? There's pressing matters, all right? We got Riley the Goat McGree, all right? Middlesbrough are back. We're winning the whole thing, okay?
Oh.
What do you mean? Oh,
I don't mind talk.
It was a scary. It was a scary start. I'm going to be honest with you. We had Charles from Bolton scoring the 23rd minute. Middlesbrough go down 1-0. If you have footage, if you're on these social medias, you can see the first goal. You can see a classic Middlesbrough defence there, just not defending, not manning up, not marking. All comes in from the right, round angle, goes past Tommy Glover, the Oz Australian, the new goalkeeper, and you're like, here we go. It's on again. It's 4 a.m. in the morning and I'm already crying. Do you know what I mean? And then Matty Crooks pops up. Matty Crooks the Tree is back. He scores an absolute brilliant goal, a cheeky flick, if you will, off the keeper in the 33rd minute. We go into halftime 1-1. What are we thinking? Oh no, it's a bit of a stalemate. It's going to be a bit of a thing. We come back in the second half again, stalemate all the way through. Oh no, what's happening? And we're seeing a new formation used by Carrick in the 4-3-3. We haven't seen that before. We're used to the 4-2-3-1 by Carrick, but last night we see a massive change in 4-3-3 for Michael Carrick. Is that a sign of things to come? Let's see. And then what happens? What happens, lads? The GOAT comes on. We make a substitution that changes the world, if you will. Okay, maybe not the world, all right, but it's pretty close to. Riley McGree, 85th minute, comes on, and oh my boy, did he have a good game. Oh my goodness, he had something like 80 shots on goal. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but look, he's just absolutely outperformed. And in the 91st minute, the boy comes from outside the box, scores low to the left of the goalkeeper. Crowd goes nuts. Boro back. Bolton goes quiet. By the way, the Tough Sheet Stadium, I don't know who came up with that, but it's marketing genius. And then Rogers, who have been copying so much heat from all the Middlesbrough fans. Will he, won't he? Is he being played in the right position? He's not a striker. What can we do with him? Bang, 94th minute, wraps up a brilliant 3-1 victory for the Borough. And I am a happy, happy man.
Yeah. Are you an Aussie by any chance?
We had three of them on the pitch. Tommy Glover, Sammy Silvera, Riley McGree. Oh, and did you see the photo with Sammy Silvera holding the scarf up?
Yeah,
that's a photo that it was a good night. And look, to be honest with you, I was worried of going into it, but Borough just needed some luck, and it went their way. The classic 3-1 victory for Middlesbrough as well. We've come to know and love that one. We left it late, but I just hope that we can use some of this confidence now and take it into QPR on Saturday, because it's all well and good in the cup, but my goodness me, do we now need to put those points in the board in the championship. But great night all round, and some crazy, as Steve touched on, some crazy results around the ground. I'm talking at Stoke, 6-1. My goodness, Stoke, calm down. And you're talking about Tottenham getting knocked out in their brown mud kit. What was that about? It was an incredible night.
I think, just to be fair, guys, by the way, that now has set the mark on how Steve and Macca have to come on after a Newcastle and Sunderland win, respectively. So this is what we're expecting, guys. The bar has been set. But to be fair to Rye, and he doesn't know I'm going to do this, a week ago, he set a challenge to Michael Carrick. This is what he posted on social media.
And get the GOAT Riley McGree on Michael, okay? Or you will have a stern word from me. You know that cardigan? Yeah. You don't want me to pull a thread, do you? I'm warning you, Michael. You play Riley.
So he actually, he's got to take some credit for that decisive substitution last night.
Yeah, look.
And he did say Riley would score.
Yeah, he was. I knew he was. He's just all ever present. He messaged me after the game and he said, "It's about time." And I said, "Oh, you little goat! I'm so proud of you, like a father." and I just, it was incredible night for Borough and Borough fans. That we had a massive turnout as well. Travelling fans, 2,800 fans making the trip down midweek to Bolton as well. Just showing again Northeast footy at its finest. The fans just love our teams. And we saw Joshy Coburn come on as well. A youngster that we thought was going to go out on loan. Maybe he has a future. It's been a big week, and it's going to be a big week for all our clubs now. We lead into deadline day, and then obviously onto QPR before the international break. And my goodness, was it a well-deserved win. And I was just so happy for the boys, happy for Carrick, happy for all of the Borough fans that have just been so down in the dumps after the start to the season. We've had a good little cup run, and my goodness me, if we get Newcastle now, I tell you, I might even have to fly over and give Steve Ray a bit of a cuddle if we get that. I tell you.
Oh wow!
I tell you what, it's a win, and that's what it does. Football fans, we can all be very fickle. You win a game, suddenly you're going to win the league, you're going to win the cup, and everybody's in a better place. But you deserve it because you have had a poor start, and I think you could hear the relief in Michael Carrick's voice afterwards as well. He certainly was, putting it on the players, saying he was happy for the players, happy for the supporters. But I think he knows now, that a win against Bolton, who they're riding high at the moment in League League One isn't going to fix things overnight, and he's got to take that form. The team's got to take that form into the game against Queen's Park Rangers at the weekend. And if you come back down to earth with a bump at the weekend, then people are going to start asking questions, and that's the problem that Carrick faces. But maybe the change in formation is what you needed. Maybe the bringing in that player, and him getting a goal. Confidence, winning breeds confidence, and that's the big thing for Middlesbrough. I think Macca, he's certainly got the bit between his teeth this morning. We've got our work cut out for the next couple of hours.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, in fairness to Middlesbrough, though, I reckon they showed great character to come back from 1-0 down. Because obviously, like you say, when Middlesbrough went 1-0 down, Rye feared the worst. So, and probably thousands of other Middlesbrough fans did as well. So to be fair to them, they did show great character and resilience to come back and obviously get the tie sorted and get through. But yeah, we've definitely got our work cut out today. So I'm still clinging on to the fact that I know it was the Papa John's trophy, but I'm still clinging on to it. We were the last team to win a trophy in the North East.
Well, Steve, would you like to counter before we hear from Michael Carrick?
Don't forget the Sela Cup, lads. And that is this season, and that's what counts.
Papa John's cellar, lock them both in the cellar.
This pre-season, yeah. Yeah, this pre-season, you're right there.
Well, you did mention there, Steve, Michael Carrick, and you can get the full interview on mfc.co.uk, but this is what he had to say about the night, about the travelling fans, and we can talk about the passion that North East football fans have, whether it's Boro, Newcastle or Sunderland. We'll do that next, but here is Carrick.
Yeah, delighted for the boys, delighted for the players, and delighted for that lot behind the goal. The support was incredible for on a night like this to sell out the allocation that we had and the noise and the support that they give us and stuck by us. After we can't hide from a tough start in terms of results, and to go a goal down, it could have been a tough night. But I thought as a whole, the connection, the fans have stuck by the lads, they supported them, they stuck the ball into the goal, the boys stuck at it, grew into the game. Showed some real quality against a really good team, to be honest, but looked good as the game went on, and I was delighted for the players because they deserve it. They've played. I haven't had really what we feel we've earned over the last few weeks.
So, Carrick, you're right, Steve. You can tell the relief in his voice. But what about the travelling support? Let's have a quick word on that. It doesn't matter whether it's Sunderland, whether it's Newcastle, whether it's Boro. I mean, last night it was 2,800 sell-out at the away end in the Carrier Bag Cup at Bolton. What is it about North East football and the fans? Steve? Oh, has Steve gone? Oh.
We've lost the Steve Wraith.
I think it's the microphone gets muted sometimes when an audio comes up, but we're back.
It's when Boro wins, yeah, we know.
I was talking away to myself there, but yeah, I think it's Newcastle, Sunderland, and Middlesbrough fans like to get away from their responsibilities. I think every now and then and shout and ball at the football teams, but ultimately it's to support the team, isn't it? We've got amazing support up here. It's the one thing we all have in common. We all like to get away and and sing our hearts out for the lads, and I think. Credit to Boro fans last night. As you say, 2,800. That's huge numbers travelling down to Bolton. And I think as well, when you look at what we've all gone through in recent years with COVID and the cost of living crisis at the moment, it's becoming harder and harder to do this. And as I'm sure we'll continue to mention on here, the new the new digital ticketing idea that's been brought in by many football clubs is also causing problems for people. So it is great to see so many Boro fans on the road, and that's what drives the teams on as well. You just need to listen to players. I mean, we see it all the time from the players at Newcastle United, how important the fans are, and they can help win and lose games, and we are the 12th man on many occasions.
Macca, what?
Yeah, I would go along.
Yeah, go on, mate.
I would go along with that. I think obviously it's just a way of life up here, and I think. Like Steve was saying, getting away for a few hours just to forget about life and put all your passion and your effort into supporting your team, whether it's a win, lose or a draw, and doesn't matter where you where they're playing, you just go. And I think on a Tuesday night, 2,800 Boro fans at Bolton's fantastic, and obviously Sunderland and Newcastle would do the same. And And I think everybody knows that, and I think that other teams maybe why they put prices up the matches because they know that they'll sell them because they know that Sunderland or Newcastle or Middlesbrough's coming. So I think sometimes we get taken advantage of a little bit, but in a way that's indicting to our support because they know that if some people don't go, they know that some other people will still buy the tickets, so they'll still all get sold out. So yeah. I think it's testament to the clubs, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, we need to take a quick break. We've done the Boro. Rye's done it to death. Good lad. We like that. We will touch on other games. We will touch on other games, whether it's to come tonight or obviously the Leeds result, the Spurs result from last night. We'll do all that and much more. We'll do that after this.
Steve and Rye. The North East Footy Breakfast.
The cat, the tune, and the red.
And I know I'm going to be accused of playing glory days just because the Boro won last night, but there you go. It was just
Boro
by
days.
chance.
I'm sitting here when dancing. It's a good day.
Two Smoggies, a Mackem and a Mag. I mean, there's a movie in there somewhere, isn't there? But there you go.
There is definitely.
Yeah.
There is definitely. Kind of beat a bit of Bruce. I've been to see him twice this year, lads. I went to see him in Scotland and in London. What a great showman he is.
Is he good? He's a good performer, is he?
Fantastic, mate. I've seen him 4 times now, and he's honestly best gigs I've ever been to. Bruce Springsteen.
It'll be a bucket list for me for sure.
Yeah, I'm just.
We don't get too many out in Australia. Too much travel for him, I think.
They can't trust you, mate. You know, travelling all that way, you just can't trust you. That's what it is. I'm just trying to think back what was my last gig. It's been a while since I've been to a proper gig. I've seen the Pet Shop Boys. I saw them at Formula One in Singapore. They were on that evening, Formula One evening. They were all right. But the best ones I've been to are Mick Hucknall, Simply Red. Saw them. Fantastic singing, but the stage show was a bit boring. Saw Prince. Prince was a great performer.
Jeez,
amazing.
That would have been a good show.
He had the girls eating out of his hand all night. But his singing was crap, but his stage performance was brilliant. But I've got to be honest, and this is going to sound all so twee, the best performer for stage show, for presence, and for vocals live, I saw Michael Jackson at Roundhay Park in Leeds. He was magnificent. Wasn't a Jacko fan then.
What a legend.
Yeah, I mean, a weirdo. Legend. We all know he's a weirdo, or was.
Well, you know, listen, but man
what a
could
guy.
sing, you know what I mean? Man, like, it was, he had some hits for a reason, and, I would have done to see MJ in his prime. My goodness.
Yeah, no, he was good. So, who else did you get about to see then, Steve? Are you a bit of a music man?
I've got to be honest. Once I hit 50, I decided that no matter what I was going to do, I was going to go and do all the bucket list kind of acts. If anybody announced, so I guess in the last few years, I've managed to hit a few targets. I went to see the Rolling Stones. It was the last gig that Charlie Watts played on drums, which was fantastic. I've seen the Pet Shop Boys. I went to see them. I went to see. I took the missus to earn some brownie points to see Beyonce at the Stadium of Light.
Good lad.
Good lad.
Which was good.
Quality stadium.
I actually quite like it for gigs. I've got to be honest, Macca. I'm not going to be detrimental towards the Stadium of Light for gigs. I think they do it quite well. I went to see Bruce Springsteen down there a few years ago, and that was good as well. But yeah, I'm booked in. What's my next few gigs? I've got booked in Madonna. I'm going to go and see Madonna in December. I'm booked in for old Slowhand, Eric Clapton next year. So I've got a few. But yeah, anyone that tickles me fancy. Went to see The Who a few weeks back at Durham, supporting the local economy. Which was good. So yeah, I am a big music fan, and I do like to support the local music scene as well. There's some great bands, and I know once we get the breakfast show established, I think what we'd like is obviously, I know you get a lot of local bands sending music in, so definitely. I've got one or two sets of bands that would like to get their music on, so hopefully we'll be able to put it across the airwaves at some point, Dave.
Well, why don't we do that? I mean, throughout the challenge now, and we are working closely with I've got to get the names right, and I'm going to butcher them, and I'm going to get them wrong, and I'll apologise in advance, but I think it's the Tees Music Alliance. So we're working closely with them. I've got a meeting with Paul, who heads up that operation next week. So that's local music on Teesside, and we're doing the same. I've forgotten the guy's name, and I do apologise if you're listening. But the equivalent for Tyneside and Wearside. So there's a collective up there for local musicians. So yeah, I mean, let's throw it out there now because of Steve. the challenge is local bands. Send us your music into the 3 stations, the Cat, the Red and the Toon. We'll have a listen to it. If we can play it, we certainly will. And I know we've had some this week as well, which we will be turning round, so we will be doing that. So get your local acts. You want some support, you want some airtime, we'll do it for you. Absolutely, that's what we're all about. Don't know what we're going to do in Australia, though, right? I mean, it's a blooming big country, a long way away. You've got a bit of marketing to do there, mate, if we're going to start receiving Aussie acts.
I do. Look, I don't really have anyone up my sleeve, especially, because we obviously go live to the northeast. I can get some guys on to, bang some sticks together or something from down here, but that's about it. I can sing. I've got a couple of, jolly old tunes I could pump out, I think. So,
you could just sing Neighbours.
I have to say, this morning, mate, I couldn't get the TV coverage here in Australia. It was very disappointing. I don't know what it is about that, but the Cup games, we only have 3 select games that get played here in Australia, and it wasn't us. It was Leeds and the Leeds game, and I just had to listen to old Maddo on the radio, and I tell you what, I was in bed. I got a pregnant wife, woke her up, woke my daughter up, woke the dog up. The dog woke the neighbours up, and I was running around, mate. I was up and about, especially. When Riley went in, it was about 5:45 in the morning, and mate, that was it, done. I was off to work, ready to go.
Good man. We do, and I did particularly like a couple of weeks ago the running round the street at 5 a.m. Good one, yeah. Good one, yeah.
Had to.
Obviously, only in Australia, you get arrested if you do that on Teesside or Tyneside or even Wearside. You might get filled in on Wearside, actually. But there you go.
On the gigs thing.
Yeah.
I went to Coldplay at the stadium, and they were fantastic, and it absolutely poured down. And Chris Martin went off the stage and came back on the stage with a new piano. He's brilliant, and I've been to see the Proclaimers a lot as well. They're obviously big Hibs fans like myself, and they're a great band as well. And I hope
you got the bus there and didn't have to walk 500 miles, Macca.
Hey, I think are you here all week with them jokes? Are you, Steve? Are you here all week?
I am a dad, mate. They're called dad jokes.
Yeah.
Used to them.
And Paul Heaton and the Beautiful South. I've been to them as well. In a park in North Yorkshire. I forget the name of it, but it was really good. Paul Heaton's a good performer as well.
Beautiful South. I played football with them at Hartlepool's ground when I used to work for TFM a long time ago. There was a charity football match, so I played for their team actually. So there's another pitch I've run out on and completely disgraced. Yeah. But there you go. Anyway, fellas, let's get back onto the subject of footy, proper footy.
Let's do it.
How much of a shock then that Leeds are out? I mean, the Salford keeper had an absolute blinder last night.
Big shock for me was Tottenham.
Yeah.
Though I think Tottenham going out was the big one. I mean, you're watching Luton Town last night as well. They are really going to struggle in the Premier League. I mean, I think they could be the first team. It's an outside bet at the moment, isn't it? But they could be the first team to go through a full season without winning a game in the Premier League if they continue in that kind of form. I don't think the manager's going to be there for much longer. But that was a far from convincing performance from them last night, and I just think I know the supporters will expect it, but to go into a game against Gillingham last night and just come out with a 3-2 win, that was probably the worst performance I thought of the night. Wolves, of course, we know they've had their own issues, but they managed. Obviously we've got players on strike and new manager coming in, but they managed to get a 5-0 win against Blackpool. And as Rai pointed out earlier, Stoke just went crazy, didn't they, with a 6-1 win over Rotherham.
Calm down, Stoke. That was incredible. To turn to 6-1 Rotherham, obviously a fellow championship team as well. I was asked early before the season started who was my dark horse, and I actually put Stoke up there. I just felt like they'd recruited really well in the off season, and they've obviously got Alex Neil there as the gaffer now, and I can never forget Alex Neil's face from that Norwich playoff final. And I just think they've gotten some good lads in. They've got Alex Neil, who's a stout gaffer who gets his teams playing strongly. You'd know him well, Macca, and probably dislike him as much as But Stoke, what a performance that was, and scary result for Rotherham, especially against a team in the same league. So, but I think the big one was obviously Tottenham going out, and credit to Fulham. They took it. When it goes to penalties, it can go anywhere. And I think Silva was actually quite calm because I think he's on a touchline ban in the Premier League. So I thought he was actually well behaved for what it was in the moment. But definitely some big results around the ground, and I think Luton, just touching on that before we go as well, it was a shame because it was Luton's, if you all don't know, it was Luton's first time back at Kenilworth Road, their home ground. Obviously, they had to shut it down in the off-season to get some renovations done to bring it up to Premier League standard. They had to add some more seating and some big screen TV and stuff like that, and it was their very first time at a renovated Kenilworth Road last night, and they've just scraped through against Gillingham. So it is going to be a big one to watch Luton this season, and they're definitely, like Steve said, they're definitely going to need to strap the boots in for because if they rock up and do anything like they played like that last night, then they're in for a long season.
Definitely a horrible ground, that though. I mean, you've got to go through somebody's back garden just to get into it. It's the accessibility, from an accessibility point of view, as a blind person, it's terrible. But I wouldn't, again, if it comes back to the North East fans, if Sunderland played there again, I wouldn't think twice about going, because you just go, because no matter where they are, you just go. But I tell you, it's a horrible ground.
Have you seen the part of the renovations for the ground is for the neighbours to put up a big wooden garden fence to stop people prying over, because they're expecting a lot more away fans coming in. So that's fantastic, isn't it?
Oh my goodness.
Premier League ground renovations, including a garden fence. Fantastic. Macca, you'll be happy, won't you? Because Port Vale did Crewe on penalties. Bit of sweet revenge for the Black Cats.
Yeah, 2-0 in the shootout, wasn't it? After a 0-0 draw after the 90 minutes. A bit of a local derby as well, but for Crewe, obviously, with Port Vale. So, yeah, I say I was listening to all the results coming in and commentaries and stuff, and I think you've probably got to give a little bit credit to Crystal Palace. I know that people were saying, well, hang on, they're only playing Plymouth, but they were 2-0 down, and they came back, didn't they? And one of the guys got a hat trick, and then they ended up winning 4-2. So. Yeah, it's. I like you say. I agree with what Steve was saying earlier about the Carabao Cup. Is that it adds to it when it goes straight to penalties and it cuts out the extra time, and I think that's what makes the FA Cup unique, as well as obviously that's one of the only cups that you get the extra time in. So I think it's a good thing that they've done with the League Cup. So. I'm imagining that Steve and Rye and yourself, Dave, will be awaiting the cup draw with trepidation and anticipation.
Oh yes, number 14 Middlesbrough against number 16 Newcastle United. That would be great.
Bring them to the Riverside.
Shake those balls up. Heat those two so they come out together. And congratulations to all three, by the way, for not mispronouncing the stadium where Boro played last night. It would be very easy to mispronounce Tough Sheet, wouldn't it? Tough Sheet Stadium.
Oh my goodness!
Indeed, and it would have been tough if we had come back away without anything.
It would have.
Steve, one for you, mate. I mean, you're the Newcastle fan. You're sitting there gloating proud in the Champions League and the Premiership, which obviously is rarefied air as far as us lot are concerned. How useful is the Carabao Cup, the League Cup?
I mean, for Newcastle fans, the Carabao Cup, last season was very important. I mean, it was a great opportunity to go on a cup run. The League Cup is not something that Newcastle has fared well in over the years. Obviously, we got to the final in '76, but beaten by that Dennis Stewart overhead kick. And since then, Newcastle have always struggled, always gone out in the early rounds. But last season was a great adventure, to continue, the run and to win the two-legged semi-final. We've seen other teams do it, and it's always annoyed me, because you look at some of the teams that who've actually gone on to win that cup, less favoured teams, than Newcastle. No one has got a divine right to win it, but you think, wow, all the money that Newcastle have squandered over the years, and they've never been able to get to that trophy, which is winnable, and people can win that trophy, because ultimately a lot of the big teams put out more, like reserve teams, etc., and don't give the opportunity. There's probably only Man City who take it seriously every year, and for us to get to that, it was important, because it would have eventually got that, you know, that trophy jinx off our back. It wasn't to be, but yeah, I expect Newcastle to take it very seriously again this year. They've got they've got a stronger squad this year, and depending on who we draw, if we get the Boro, fantastic. But I think Newcastle will respect the competition, and I think they'll respect the trophy, and I think they'll respect whoever they play, and they'll put out the strongest team possible. But it is very important. But I think on the flip side of that, as a supporter, when you go to the games, your club has to really, it has to reduce tickets. It has to the cost of tickets. It has to make it affordable. It has to make it attractive to families to come, because it hasn't got the same spark as the FA Cup. You know, the FA Cup is still the trophy, and I think I've heard people say that the FA Cup has lost its magic. I think people are right. I think in a lot of ways, because I think it's because of TV. I think it's the fact that, you know, back in the good old days, we all used to have, the television, would sit in the house, would make it an occasion, would watch the you'd watch the team leave a hotel and the bus, you'd watch them go down Wembley Way, but it was always 3:00 on a Saturday, and that is the difference. TV has changed it now. Your FA Cup final can kick off at 4:00, 5:30. And it's there's no routine anymore. It's not just televised by one channel. It's televised by multiple channels. So you've got an option of watching it on one of the networks or one of the paid networks. And for me, it's that's what stifled it, and that's what's made it less attractive. But out of the two cups, you've got to say, as a football fan, you want to see your club win a trophy. Either one will do me. It would certainly mean I could stop gloating on about the Sela Cup.
Yeah, yeah, and it would probably
just on the FA Cup though. Just on the FA Cup, people saying it being devalued. What didn't help was I forget in the year, but it was a few years ago when Man United decided they weren't taking part, didn't they? And went and played abroad, and I think Darlington got drawn back into it, didn't they? And I think if I remember right, they played Aston Villa, so obviously I think that helped Darlington at the time. But you know, the big clubs like Man United and that, they shouldn't be allowed to. They should never have been allowed to do that.
And let's not forget, you know, there's a European place at stake as well for winning these cups. I think the League Cup still carries a European spot, doesn't it? They haven't stripped that off the EFL, have they?
They change from year to year, don't they, Dave? So we'll Google that. We'll find that out.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. Okay, fellas.
I mean,
sorry, Ryan. Go for
Newcastle. I apologise. I do apologise, but if we could line up Newcastle in the next round, I mean, we haven't seen them at Riverside or been there since I think it was a club friendly in 2020. So what a performance that, you know, and what a spectacle that would be to get Newcastle and Middlesbrough together. But one thing I just wanted to touch on quickly and before we wrap up, talking about the Cup last night, was Wolves. I watched Wolves on the side as interest. Obviously, Gary O'Neill going in there, the Nunez stuff as well, and they came on with a 5-0 victory against Blackpool. And no Nunez, but it was interesting to hear and that Gary O'Neill in the presser afterwards saying, I expect Nunez to stay. And that he said that even though he wasn't there at the ground tonight, that he expects him to be a Wolves player after the deadline day. So the reports are, according to Gary O'Neill, that Nunez will stay at Wolves, and them coming away with a 5-0 victory against a lowly Blackpool. Blackpool, unfortunately, weren't too much of an opposition, but Wolves, an interesting one.
Yeah. And just to complete the picture, 5 games tonight. A couple of interesting ones, actually. Chelsea hosting Wimbledon. Harrogate Town hosting Blackburn. That'll be an interesting one. Forest Burnley, Sheffield United Lincoln. And then the one we'll all be waiting for the full-time whistle on, Doncaster hosting Everton, because after that, it is the draw for the third round. And will it be red and white against black and white? Yeah, I don't want black and white. Nothing personal, Steve. But I don't want black and white against red and white. It's got to be the other way around, mate. Make it tasty.
All right, mate. And the winners of the Carabao Cup qualify for the Europa Conference League.
There you go.
All right, good man. Good wikiing.
Which is what West Ham won last year. And obviously my team Hibs, we were in it. We're still in it at the moment, but obviously after the Aston Villa result, we'll be out of it. But so yeah, it'll be some tough teams in that Conference League this year. So you'd imagine it would be the same next season again. So there's a bit of incentive to go out there and take the Carabao Cup seriously and win it. You know.
You do have to get a jock reference in every now and again, don't you? Well done, mate. Congratulations for that one. Another wiki question then, and maybe if Macca, if you're on top of West Ham and what they did last year, does that qualify you if you win it? Does that qualify you for Europe automatically for the following season?
I think it does. Yes, as far as I know.
Steve,
sure one of the lads will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it does.
Get wikiing. Good man.
I mean, at the start of the season, obviously the top 4 in the Premier League qualify for the Champions League.
Yep.
Fifth place and the FA Cup winners enter the Europa League. But there could be a change this season where 5th place will qualify for the Champions League. The winners of the Carabao Cup, obviously, as I've said, they qualify Europa. And I do believe that the team that wins the Europa League do that as well. So I've just looked at it now. The winners of the Carabao Cup qualify, and the winners of the Europa qualify again. Yeah.
Okay. Cracking. Okay, time for a quick break. Then more footy chat across the northeast on the Cat, the Red, and the Toon.
Clark.
My debut 1990 September, Bristol City away, to get that opportunity, what thousands of Geordies only dream of.
Hignett.
Playing against Chelsea and to score the first goal there is something that still lives with me now, and it's what most people will talk to me about.
Williams.
A first goal for Sunderland away at Leicester. It was a left foot volley. I didn't realise my left foot was for kicking the ball with it as well. I thought it was just for standing up.
Across the northeast, it's the 3 legends.
Fridays at 6 on the Cat, the Red, and the Toon. It is the Cat, the Red, and the Toon across the northeast. It is the northeast footy brekkie. We got Rye on from G'day, down under. Where it's probably sunny, and are you in the 20s yet? No, 20 degrees yet.
It is actually. I think we got 19 today, actually.
19. And
I couldn't care if it was raining today. You know what I mean? The overall glow from my body is warming everyone. You know what I mean? Ara win.
Yeah.
Like I'm just a walking ray of sunshine.
Well, that's it. Good
My overall glow is coming from Ready Breck, mate. Other porridge brands are available, but that's how cold it is in the northeast this morning.
It was chilly this morning, and we're supposed to be still in summer. And I jumped in the car this morning and it was bloody freezing. It was, There you go, Ryan. You're in the right place, mate, I'm telling you. And we got Macca as well. Macca, the Sunderland fan who's with us.
Yeah, I certainly am.
Are you nice and toasty on Wayside?
Enjoyed a bit of the Groover from Vancouver there. With
Groover from Vancouver. Like it. Tell you what, I've seen him in concert. While we were talking music earlier. I used to work for ESPN, so I lived in the US for 4 and a bit years, and there was a mate of mine who I worked with, another English lad. We used to work together in Singapore, and we ended up both going out to America, bizarrely. And he phoned up one day because the families became good friends, and he went, got some tickets for a music event, do you want to come? And it's like, oh, well, where is it? When is it? Oh, it's in Torrington, which was a real redneckville in Connecticut, where they have engines in bits on your driveway in the front lawn. And he went, oh, it's on Friday. You want to come across? We got tickets. All right, then we'll go across. So then we turn up, and I'm saying to him in the cars we're driving there, who are we going to see? Bryan Adams. I went, Bryan Adams is coming to Torrington. Come on! And he did. He was doing an unplugged tour in America, and it was all these little tiny, music halls in towns and stuff. This place would have held, it would have been busting at the seams if there was 1,000 people in. But it was a fantastic night. What a night it was! It was brilliant. It was just him and a guitar and the audience. That's all it was. It was. Wow! It was incredible. But anyway,
that would have been very good.
Yeah, enough of music. So, where are we going, fellas? What's next? Come on.
Well, let's talk a bit of Newcastle, lads. Let's talk a bit of Newcastle. I was celebrating. Yeah, I would do. I was celebrating yesterday getting rid of Isaac Hayden, wishing him well. He's on his way to Luton. And then last night, the news broke that the deal was off, and there's been no confirmation as to why the deal is off. The rumours that have been coming out of Luton Town have been simply that they can only have 2 loan deals, and they fancied Rob Holden from Arsenal instead. So Hayden is still a Newcastle United player. And obviously, with transfer deadline day on the horizon, Newcastle will be looking to do a deal to get rid of him. But that is quite disappointing. Not really as much for Newcastle, but more for the player, because it just means he's going to be sitting in Newcastle doing nothing if he doesn't get that move. So that's disappointing. In other news from St James's Park, or should I say from Anfield, the FA have decided to charge Van Dijk for what he had to say at the referee on his red card dismissal. So delighted with that, and hopefully there'll be an extended ban for him. And that was a big breaking news story. And of course the Jamal Lascelles story is now been laid out there by the Daily Mail. Craig Hope, of course, broke that exclusively over 24 hours ago now, and I guess that leads to the question, for me anyway, that nights out for players, whether the Newcastle players, Middlesbrough players, Sunderland players, everyone's entitled to a social life, but is it wise for players to go out on the town, especially after a defeat, and especially as into some areas which are probably not the wisest places to go for a football player? And if you're going to go there with no security, I mean, I've got to be honest, I did the doors for 18 years in Newcastle, and I used to watch the likes of Shearer, Given, Harper, I can name a few others out and about in the town. And of course the entertainers used to socialise as a team together. Even those like Peter Beardsley, who didn't drink, would at least go out for the meal. But they always had somebody with them. They had a guy called Stevie Burns, good pal of mine, who used to go out and look after the players. He'd always be there, and if anyone went too far, he'd step in, he'd have a word, and that's how they went about. Now these players, these Premier League players now, where was Lascelles' security on the night? He clearly didn't have any. So what's your thoughts, Ray, on this?
I think it's scary for the players. Obviously, as you get into the higher leagues, the more profile you grow on social media and stuff like that. And we've seen and we've spoken to it about it in the past couple of days about social media and the players. We saw Bruno on his social media and biting back and stuff like that. And with that becomes hey, I'm just having a nice dinner with my wife down at the local restaurant, but as much as innocence they might put that out on Instagram, it lets everyone know that they're out to dinner, and and they've got their wife, they may have their kids with them and stuff like that, and it's becoming something where they probably can't, and it's one of those things that goes hand in hand with being a football star. Unfortunately, is that you are a high profile person in the public eye, and even if you want to go down and do your groceries, there is a risk that someone who doesn't like you, someone who put a bet on you and lost a lot of money and would blame you for that. There's a lot of caveats that go with why fans are connected to their team and their players. And we saw with obviously Sellers that it was his younger brother that got elbowed, and he stuck up for his brother and stuff like that. But again, I think when you're a high profile player, especially when you're in the Premier League, especially when you're on large salaries, we see it with even YouTubers now and stuff like that. You need to have security, especially in the UK, especially when you go out. And if you are going to go out, you need to be quite, I guess, secretive and personal. Keep your personal life to yourself. And those that want to share it on social media or that let the world know where they are, then they have to expect there's going to come. Not only they're going to come the good ones, but with the good fan, there's always the crazy one that takes it a bit too far. So. Unfortunately, I think it's part and parcel of being a footballer these days, but completely and utterly agree with you, Steve, that if you are at a level where you are on the big dollars and you are high profile, you definitely need security wherever you go.
I mean, Macca, these players aren't short of a few quid, you know what I mean? And ultimately, getting a local security firm to maybe look after them when they're out and about, surely that would make sense.
Absolutely. I mean, as a football player, you do have to make sacrifices because your every move is scrutinised, whether it be on the pitch or off the pitch. And I think it's the timing, like you say as well, Steve. The timing was a bit silly, really, when they just had a game, and I imagine they flew back from Manchester and nearly gone straight out in Newcastle that night. I think it was, wasn't it? So I just think maybe if you're going to go out as well, maybe wait the day after a game or something, not and I know I'm not making any excuses, but obviously tensions will be high anyway because of the result and stuff like that. So like you say, it just takes one crazy person to spoil your night, and then it's all over the the papers and everywhere like that, and I do feel slightly sorry for his brother, because obviously I imagine getting dragged into it, and you've got to think about not just how it would affect you, but how it would affect everybody that's around you as well. And like you say, keep it off social media as well if you're going out somewhere. And
if you want to quiet,
you've got to think about how much responsibility you have, And I think obviously, I imagine that Eddie Howe wouldn't have been happy with it at all. And I imagine, I'm just guessing, but I think there'll be an internal fine, and rightly so, because you've just got to use use your head about these things and just decide when the time's right. And if you're not desperate to go out, then maybe wait for a little bit and then go out. But
yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to get used to it, fellas. We're gonna have to get used to it, aren't we? We're gonna need security when we go out. Absolutely. I've got to thank, and by the way, I've got to apologise. I've got to thank Amy, who's in concert, who's just sent a message through, and I'm apologising because we've gone 50 odd minutes and I haven't even mentioned the number. You can get your comment in, you can get your questions in, you can get your points across. WhatsApp us into the studio 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. If you don't understand my smoggy brogue, I'll do it in a different language. 0330 043 2002. Amy's point is, isn't this more of a damning indictment of modern day society when footballers can't go out without trouble following them? Steve?
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, unfortunately, though, technology's changed as well. Back in the 90s, and, when the entertainers were out, I keep using them as a reference point, but, they did used to socialise together, and they would pop down to, an Italian restaurant on the quayside and then go for a few drinks along there, usually on a Monday night. And, that was in the days without mobile phones, and I think that's the other big problem that you've got. We've seen the footage of this incident at the weekend after the Man City game, was filmed by somebody who, just was a bystander, I presume, who just captured the moment, and obviously then has gone on and passed that footage on, and that's half the problem as well. It is a sad indictment on society. Things have changed. You can't go out and do what you probably did back in the 90s, and that. Yeah, I agree with Amy. I think she makes a valid point. But society's changed, I think, in some ways for the better, but in some ways for the worse. And I think, unfortunately, if you are in the public spotlight, if you are somebody who's, the phrase I've often used is put your head above the parapet, then you've got to behave in a certain way. You don't put yourself in those positions. And Rai mentioned about going out for a meal and maybe going out with your family. I think a lot of the professionals, those with common sense would put out a photograph after they've been to the venue, but we've seen it happen with lots of high profile players. I remember an incident in Newcastle with Jordan Pickford. When he was playing for Sunderland just before he moved to Everton. I think there was an altercation that his friends were involved in, and he ended up in the middle of it. And ultimately for Jordan Pickford, he was in Newcastle. Now I'm not saying that he shouldn't be going to Newcastle, but he's got to accept that if he's going to put himself in the middle of Newcastle, especially the banter that he has with fans, and he does have banter with the Newcastle fans whenever he plays, then there is always going to be somebody who has had one too many, who is going to come up, and a bit of Dutch courage, if you can say that anymore, is going to come up to them and have a go, and something could happen, and it's putting yourself in that position, and you've got to learn not to put yourself in that position, and really that's where issues can develop. We don't know what's happened with Lascelles. We don't know what happened on that night with Pickford. All we know is what we see on the footage that comes out. But ultimately, it's just avoid what Craig Hope called that zone that Lascelles was in, the zombie zone. Why go down there at a certain time of night when people are going to have had one too many? Just be careful. Be careful what you're doing, I guess, is the advice you would give to any Premier League footballer. Just think about where you're going before you go out.
Right? Do you get the same in Oz with the footy players? I mean, do you get these incidents happening or not?
Nah, not really, mate. No, I would. We've had a couple, but it's usually due to their own sort of. We get a lot with the rugby league, but it has been quite quiet for the majority of a good part of a couple of years now. We had a couple of NRL boys who went out on and they had a few beers, and then they ended up, causing the ruckus themselves, sort of thing. So, there are some boys, and we've got to understand as well that behind the football or behind, whatever sport they are, they're still a human being, you know what I mean? And some of them have been, have been put into the system, say as a footballer from a young age, you know what I mean? They've tried, and that's all they know. They haven't had the social media training. They haven't had real life experiences. They don't know what it's like, to work on Monday 9 to 5 and then come home and then want to watch your football team and then they let you down and how, disappointed in that you feel. But they are still, human beings. And I with the text in, it was a very good point because they are human beings behind it and they want to have their own personal life, and they really should. But unfortunately, part and parcel of that is that, like Steve said, everyone's got a mobile phone. Every mobile phone now has a video camera. Every phone has a camera. And the thing is when you're a player of a certain club, it's not just, Lascelles has been caught in the thing. It's Lascelles, the Newcastle United player, has been caught in the thing, and then it throws the club in, and then this club has to step in, and then the club has he was a Newcastle boy, and it's one of those things when the club then gets dragged into it because they are a representative of that club, no matter what time, no matter what day. If you see any of them pushing fans, it's Van Dijk, the Liverpool player, had a go at the blah 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 blah, and it brings scrutiny to the whole team and the other players and some of the the bigger heads. And I think it's up to, especially in the team environment, leadership to get around the young boys, the leadership, the older players that have been there and done that and gone, righto boys, this is what I've been doing. This is how it works. Come under my wing, and then if you want to go out, this is where you want to go. Especially if you're new to the area and stuff like that. This is where you want to go for dinner. If you got your missus, you go here. Don't say anything. Blah 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 blah. And it's up to the players that have already been in that area to say where not to go. But and even then, it's still not safe. And so.
Okay, thanks for that, mate. I'm going to put a pause to discussions because it's time for the news, fellas. It's 8 o'clock here in the UK. We'll be back after this.
From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swarwell to Silverlink, Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
My lover's got humor.
Hosier, take me to church. I think we're all at the church, aren't we, fellas? Our respective places of worship. The Riverside Stadium of Light, St James's Park. Yeah. I don't want to mix football and religion. I'll get letters. So, brand new hour. It is the North East Footy Brekky with I'm the interloper for the moment. I'm the temporary piece of the jigsaw, just filling in that space. It's Dave. It's Rye, of course, the Boro fan in Australia. I didn't call you Si this time. Bloody hell! I'm getting used
to it. I'm proud of you.
Yes, Steve. I didn't call you Reeve, so that's even better. Who's the Newcastle fan on Tyneside? We have Macca, who's in County Durham. He's the Sunderland fan. So it's a full house. If we were playing poker, fellas, I'd be confident of the hand I hold. Steve, I know something that's gripped you a bit. Kick-off times.
Oh dear me, how this is something which is a nightmare for all football fans, and that is the crazy kick-off times that they give for certain fixtures. And this weekend is a prime example of it. We have Southampton travelling to the Stadium of Light to play Sunderland for a 12:30 kick-off. That is absolutely crazy. We also have Newcastle fans travelling to Brighton for a 5:30 kick-off. Now, what's the significance of those two kick-off times? Well, first of all, they're both South Coast teams. Southampton fans have got to get up at whatever time in the morning to make probably a 7.5 hour drive to the North East. You've got to have a few stops in amongst all of that. But, they've got that. They're going to have to get up probably round about the 3 o'clock mark to set off to get there in good time.
Right time.
And then Newcastle,
Exactly.
then Newcastle fans have got to do the reverse and go to Brighton. Yeah, okay, they don't have to get up as early, But the problem you got is you're gonna get back at a crazy time the next morning, or you're not gonna get back at all, because some people don't want to drive. Some people don't like getting a bus. People like to get the train. We've got the added problem this weekend, which of course is beyond football powers controls, of a rail strike.
Oh, don't start.
And the rail strike means that there's no trains, so nobody can get there on train. So if you do go down, you've got to make a full weekend of it. If you're going to go by train, you might have to get a flight. Well, the cost implications of getting a flight are crazy. We've seen what's going on with flights at the moment. There's chaos at the airports. So all in all, it's all down to kick-off times, and this is where the 3 o'clock on a Saturday is always a bit more beneficial. Okay, people might say that well, that's only 2.5 hours difference for Newcastle fans, but the difference is if 3 o'clock kick-off in Brighton means that Newcastle fans could get there and back, if there was no train strike, could get there and back on the train. For me, it's annoying, lads. It's something which, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how much we moan or groan, I don't think we're ever going to change. But I do think that that maybe the Football Authority should look at this and say, look, this is a bit unfair on the supporters. We don't mind you televising this game, but it needs to be at a time which is more convenient for travel and support. I don't know what you think, right?
Yeah, look, it's obviously hard for me. Obviously, being in Australia, I don't want to harp on it too much, because I feel like it would be unjust for me to comment on how much you and the fans have to travel, because I just have to get up and get to the closest TV or to my phone sort of thing. But I mean, when you see the fixture and when you sent it, seeing Southampton at Sunderland for me at 12:30 in the morning, and knowing what the fans what time they have to get up, it's crazy to me, because you've got you're asking punters that are Monday to Friday workers working hard for the money. We see the financial crisis and everything like that. We got rail strikes and stuff, and then you're asking the Southampton fans to get up at crazy o'clock, get on a bus, whatever it may be, and it's almost like, what can the club put on something the night before and get everyone down there or something like that, because it really is just asking so much of the fans. And then we look at digital ticketing and the pricing that we spoke about yesterday on yesterday's show. The pricing going up, so you're asking so much of fans already, and then they have the heartache of the scheduling as well. It blows my mind that that not more can be done, but unfortunately TV rights are TV rights, and if that's the time slot you got, then for the money that the club would get through revenue of TV rights and stuff like that, I guess there's just there's no answer to it. But I do wish that there was some sort of more given back to the fans, and some sort of help or something like that from the league or the club during those sorts of games, for sure.
Macca, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, so obviously this is a subject that's close to me, because obviously, as I explained to you yesterday, supporting two teams and travelling around with two teams in Britain, the kickoffs are something I've got to think about all the time. Ultimately, it's an absolute nightmare with TV. And the thing is, it comes back to what I was saying before, is that Sky and all these people that show the matches, they know it doesn't matter what time they put the games on. They know that Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough will still sell out, because even if it's not a full crowd from the northeast, Newcastle, Sunderland and Middlesbrough are lucky in that position that they've got fans that live in London, that live all over, Rye being a prime example. But so obviously they know that if you can't attend it from the northeast, they know that the tickets will still sell out, because people in London will go, or people from wherever will go, so that's why I don't see it changing, because the only way it would change is that if the clubs didn't you stopped making money on it, and actually, like, Newcastle fans said, no, we can't make it from the northeast, so let's boycott it, and Sunderland do the same, and Middlesbrough. But you can't see it happening, because there's that much demand for tickets for our free clubs, that they know that they're not just selling to a northeast market, they're selling to the whole of Britain. I mean, there's you guys will know yourselves, like you say, there's loads of fans that support all of the clubs that travel from a fair distance, not just the northeast. So, and it's exactly like that in Scottish football as well. I know that we're obviously broadly on the northeast, but it's exactly like that as well. And they just move games when they want to at the drop of a hat, really. and that there's no consideration at all for the fans.
Yeah, Scotland's only small, mate. As a country, you don't have far to travel at all. You jump on a bus, you're there in 30 minutes.
The thing is, though, not a lot of. Well, not like there's still quite a few fans that go to Scottish football matches who don't live in Scotland. So
yeah,
it's not just a half an hour travel, and especially up to places like Aberdeen and Ross County and Inverness, and for 12 o'clock kickoffs and stuff like that. It's crazy. Like you say, the fans are just sort of second citizens now. They're just sort of cannon fodder. They're not interested in the fans whatsoever. And they're just.
Which team do you follow, Macca, in Scotland? Is it Hibs?
It is.
Okay, what attracted you to support Hibs?
So, I went to the blind school in Edinburgh, and I love football that much. You just felt like you had to pick a team, and luckily I picked the right side of the capital, in my opinion. I picked Hibs. And I used to start. Obviously, we used to attend the school from Monday to Friday, and used to start attending the Hibs midweek away matches. Home games. And then I got a season ticket, and then sort of never looked back. Started going home and away, and they brought the away season ticket in, and I took that option up, and now they've got the Hibs First loyalty scheme, and I love it. Like, if both teams are playing at different times, I get to go to both games, and like you say, tomorrow night will be my 11th game of the season already. So
yeah,
that's crazy, isn't it? I mean, Dave, did you ever have a Scottish team?
No. I mean, I've been a one club man all my life. I was brought up on Boro. Been going to games since I was dragged to my first game at the age of 4, probably kicking and screaming, not understanding what I was doing. And I've been a one club man all the way through. God, I sound like a footballer, don't I? A one club man all my career.
The Matt Le Tissier.
That's it.
Of the radio station.
Yeah, well, somebody had called me something slightly different than Le Tissier, I'm sure. But
well, I haven't got one. I mean, I got sucked in the 90s to the whole Celtic Rangers thing, because Newcastle signed former Scottish captain Roy Aitken, and that was the first time I'd ever seen a half and half hat and a half and half scarf. Newcastle and Rangers, Newcastle and Celtic, the guys outside the ground who sell the memorabilia, decided to cotton onto that. And you had the Gallagher corner and you had the Gallagher scoreboard, basically Celtic Rangers, and it was absolutely crazy, and I couldn't understand it. Why on earth we were supporting a Scottish team? I just didn't understand. But it was just the fact that we'd signed Roy Aitken. We also had Mark McGee, who of course was an Aberdeen legend who'd come back for a second spell at the club. So we had that little connection. But other than that, I've always struggled with it. And I mean, I'll have a bit of banter with the lads, especially Celtic Rangers Day. It gives it a bit of interest when you're down the pub. But I've never quite understood that people having second teams and people supporting teams abroad as well. I've never understood that.
Well, I got to ask.
I think for us, Dave, as well.
Sorry, go on, man.
I think for us, Dave, as well. Like we get asked if we support a Scotland squad. We didn't really need to as Boro fans. We had the Scottish Revolution when Gordon Strachan came through. So we had our own Scottish team, didn't we?
That was below the belt.
Do you know what I mean?
That was painful.
You know what I mean? That was our Scottish team for the point there, where we had every Scottish player in the whole world playing for us, and a Scottish manager. So that was our Scottish team for a bit there.
He ruined the team, absolutely. and he, look, fair play to him. He realised what damage he'd done and how crap he was. So he just threw his hands in, didn't he? He just threw his hand in and went to Steve Gibson. Sorry, mate. I've messed it all up.
Mate.
I'm walking. So,
Scottish Revolution wasn't the best.
A good man. Less success than Kenny Dalglish.
On the two-team thing, obviously, I know you might think, well, how can you support two teams? But I can't explain it. I feel the same emotions for both teams, and especially if they're both playing at the same time. And I'm at one match, I'll have my phone or my radio glued to my ear, listening to work out what's going on in the other game, and then come back home and listen to the commentary of the game that I've just been at. So it's a lot of it for me is about the atmosphere, and I don't know. I would prefer it if they both played at different times, and luckily they have been so far, and I got to 77 games last season following them both, so I'm hoping to beat that record this season.
Macca, there's an obvious question coming. If Hibs played Sunderland in a competitive game,
Sorry, it'd have to be Europe. That's why I'm sniggering.
Yeah, who would you want to win?
Probably turn my PlayStation off. No, I would. It would be a draw. I'd want a draw.
Oh no!
Oh, damn me out.
I couldn't do it.
It's like obviously if you've got children, you don't love one child more than the other. You know what I mean? You
don't tell them.
Speaks the man who's about to drop a second.
You just can't put it aside. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I have more downs than I do ups at the moment, but hopefully things will change. And it's ironic, the timeline, if you think about it, because you had Jack Ross, who was Hibs and Sunderland manager. You had Lee Johnson, who was at Sunderland and Hibs. So it's weird the way things work out. And you know, I was just saying when Lee Johnson got the boot from Hibs on Sunday, you know, I was just saying to myself, well, what the flaws that he had at Sunderland has obviously found him out at Hibs. And you know, I picked up on things that happened at Sunderland that was happening at Hibs, and that's why I thought the writing was on the wall. And like you say, after playing three in the league and being bottom of the league, he had to go. So
I couldn't do it, lads. Couldn't do it. It'd be like having two wives and one's one's enough. I just couldn't do it. How on earth can you? You know, I'm a Boro fan, by the way. I support Celtic. Couldn't do it. I know there are many people, and maybe we throw it out to the masses. You know, 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. WhatsApp. You know, if you support two teams and tell us why. But I just, you know, I had two spells in Singapore, so I wasn't too far away from you, Ryan. I was getting closer, mate.
Yeah, you were.
And it was a common occurrence because I used to work on TV. I used to present TV shows across Asia, so people used to recognise me. Maybe I need a bodyguard when I go out to Newcastle. So people would come up and they'd talk to me, and I'd say, "Oh, who do you support?" You know, you'd have this bizarre situation where they'd say, "I'm a Manchester United fan, but I also like Arsenal." It's like, how? You know, if you just said, but I also like Real Madrid, fair enough, different countries. Yeah. But you'd have people out there going, yeah, I'm a Man U fan, but I also like Arsenal. I also like Liverpool. And I think, no, that doesn't compute in my mind. It's bizarre.
But the thing
we get a lot of that in Australia as well. We get a lot of that in Australia because obviously they're not born and bred into the football world, you know what I mean? And they grow up and they go, oh, I like Man United, or I like Arsenal and stuff like that. You get a lot of that, you know, in Australia because obviously it's so foreign to us and still, you know, so far away that, you know, you get the people that, I had one guy the other day when I was doing the walkathon raising some money. He goes, who's the club that you know, what jersey is that? Is that Man United? I said, excuse me, sir, do not ever say that ever again. And then I said, it's the mighty Boro. And I said, oh, who do you support? He goes, and he said, oh, I'm a Chelsea fan, but I don't mind watching Arsenal. I was like, like, hang on, you're two London teams. You know what I mean? So it is wild here in Australia. But I think when it comes to, I can understand it in internationals. You know, you got your mum maybe born in Scotland and your dad born somewhere else, and you go, oh, you know, I don't mind watching England. Like, and you know, for me, I'm Australian born and bred, love most Aussies, but you know, both my parents born in England. That they're watching watching what happens in the England national team and stuff like that is something that, you know, I quite like as well. So I think internationally I can I get it. And look, I just know, you know, if you got 2 teams, 3 teams, whatever it is, but you know, good luck to you, good luck judging. You know, I can't imagine having, you know, to pick another Riley McGree out. That's for sure.
I've got a challenge then to the masses. Is there anybody out there who can honestly, hand on heart, say, I'm a Newcastle fan, but I also like Sunderland? Or vice versa? Does anybody exist in the Northeast Steve like that?
Can't be.
Well, genuinely can it happen? It can. I mean, I used to know one guy years ago. I used to run a post office in Gateshead, and the guy used to submit articles for the fanzine that I used to write under the pseudonym Magpie. Sorry.
No way.
So obviously Mackem and Pie, and he was in his 80s. I mean, he's no longer with us now, but he used to write those articles, and they were about Northeast football and Northeast teams. But he said that back in the 40s and 50s, when he was going to the game on a regular basis, he said that fans couldn't afford to travel to away games. He said, so you would have Northeast guys, miners, whatever, would go to Newcastle one week and to Sunderland the next, and they would support both teams. So I would guess back in those years, it was something that happened. But rivalry developed over the years. Probably the 70s, was when hooliganism started, and hooliganism was rife in the 70s and 80s. Just social change, reasons for different areas falling out, and I think that's probably where the rivalry stemmed from. But yeah, I think it did happen. But nowadays, I think it'd be hard to find. You get a lot of people. I'm one of them. I'm one of them. I would like to see Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough all in the Premier League. I would love to see that, but obviously I want to see Newcastle United be the top dog of the North East. We spoke about it on our very first breakfast show, but no, I couldn't support both teams. That just completely against the grain. It wouldn't feel right at all.
Yeah.
And just on another thing on the two teams thing. Sorry, guys, but obviously when I say support, I don't just sort of like say, well, okay, I go to Sunderland games and I'll just sit in and listen to Hibs games, or vice versa. I attend both teams' matches, so it's not like I'm just saying, well, I support two teams because I like them. I actually go to the games, so it's not. I'm trying to support. I don't have to try because it's just a way of life. But I support both of them equally. So I know that some people won't get that, and I get asked about that all the time because obviously, being totally blind and living in one country but supporting two teams from two different countries, people are like, well, how do you get up and down the country to go to all the games? And obviously when you mentioned the trains, they're a massive help, and you get like assistants who help me off the trains and stuff like that. And I've met so many people who have got on my Facebook, my Twitter, around the country through football and through help. And so it does work, but I get it that some people will be like, well, I couldn't do it, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And I've done it for years, and I'll do it until I can't no more, So I think yeah, I can't. It's like, it's weird.
Power to you.
I don't know what takes over, but like Sunderland could be down in London on a Saturday, and then Hibs could have an away game with, say, Motherwell or Dundee on the Sunday, and I don't know what it is. I've just got to find a way of getting there, and something just takes over me, and then I've just got to go. And yeah,
you can change, and you can change, because I was an ardent Boro fan. And the mere mention of Sunderland and Newcastle when I was younger would, just set the hairs standing at the back of my neck. And it's, we're playing them in 3 weeks' time. We got to stuff them, and So I was the ardent Boro fan who disliked because of rivalry. Steve, you hit the nail on the head. It's rivalry. It's tribal. Disliked Sunderland and Newcastle. And then in 1998 we launched Sky Sports News, and I became Sky's North East football reporter. And every week I'm going into either Sunderland or Newcastle or Boro, and it was great because they were all in the Premier League at the time. It was that sort of era. And suddenly you start meeting Peter Reid, you start meeting Kenny Dalglish, though we fell out a few times. The players. I got on really well with the likes of Steve Harper and Shea Given and Kevin Phillips and Michael Gray, and suddenly you do build a bit of an affinity. And now I'm like you, Steve. I want all three clubs in the Premier League. I want all three clubs to do well, but I want Boro to be top dog. And that's going to be hard with the Saudi money coming in. There you go.
I was going to touch on that. It was interesting. It was interesting, Steve, about you mentioning how, the travel for fans, is quite... And it was interesting to come, because I honestly thought every Newcastle fan had their private jets. So I was interested to hear that you know what I mean? That there wasn't, there was an issue for Newcastle fans.
I don't know
honestly,
how the
Saudi money
came from Yorkshire.
It doesn't take long for us to descend into that football tribal banter, does it? I tell you what, guys, we need to recharge our glasses and recoup and come back sensible. Now we'll just continue this after the ad break. Clark.
My debut 1990 September, Bristol City away, to get that opportunity, what thousands of Geordies only dream of.
Hignett.
Playing against Chelsea and to score the first goal there is something that still lives with me now, and it's what most people will talk to me about.
Williams.
A first goal for Sunderland away at Leicester. It was a left foot volley. I didn't realise my left foot was for kicking the ball with it as well. I thought it was just for standing it.
Across the North East, it's the three legends.
Fridays at 6 on the Cats, the Reds and the Toon.
Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Reds, the Cats and the Toon.
made a promise to the Northeast yesterday we would level everything up musically, so we've done a bit of Fender Newcastle, we've done a bit of James Arthur Teesside, we're doing a bit of Ferry, who was from Washington, which I'm sure Macca will absolutely dig his heels in and say is Sunderland territory, but it is geographically close to Newcastle. Macca?
Yeah, but I think it's under Wearside though, isn't it?
Okay.
It's kind of Weir, isn't it?
I had a feeling. I just had a feeling in my water that you would insist, but there you go.
Yeah.
So fellas, we were talking just before the break about. Well, just before the break, we were talking about tearing each other apart and taking the mick out of each other. But just before that, we were talking about kick-off times. You know, the inconvenience for Southampton fans having to come up to Sunderland, Newcastle fans having to travel south with silly kick-off times. It's all obviously because of the evils of TV deals. Now, TV money, I'm sure, is good for the game in terms of attractiveness to foreign investors. I'm not mentioning anything. Saudi money. But also, obviously, it's useful to get the pictures out to the masses. But, you know, is it good? Is it bad? Is it evil? Is it absolutely necessary for the game? Where are your thoughts, Rai?
I think it's interesting for me, obviously, once again, being foreign and you know, I'll take last night as a good example for the Bolton game. For me, in 2023, it's amazing that I can't still watch the football team that I love, no matter what league they're in, no matter what cup they're in. That football, even though it's being televised and there are cameras at the ground and stuff like that, that because it's decided that another game would have created, especially here in Australia, would have gotten more views and stuff like that, that I just can't see the Boro anywhere. I can't get them on, you know, any, like, unless I do the dodgy stick and stuff like that. But even then, it's not the best feed, and it sometimes leads to further issues and stuff like that. So I think it's incredible to see the amount of money that's going into the TV rights and the TV deals, to still see that we're still not being able to watch the football, especially globally, for some, unless, you know, you're the Man Uniteds or something like that, and that's probably what's the dominance of, you know, the Asia and in Australia and Americas and stuff like that, because that's the teams they see. That's the teams that are on every weekend. They can see that Arsenal are playing. They can see that Man United are playing. So I speak sort of internationally rather than England-based. That, you know, that for me, it's amazing the amount of money they're spending on the TV rights, the amount of money that the clubs are making, and we can see the parachute payments and stuff like that are all from losing TV rights and stuff like that. And we see, like Kenilworth, we were talking about earlier, Kenilworth Road, the Luton Town, having to go up in $10 million worth of upgrades so they could handle the amount of cameras and all that sort of stuff that are going to come in through the Premier League. So it's incredible to see the amount of money that is just purely around showing a football game and what the stadium needs to accommodate for and what the money is to get the rights for it and all that sort of stuff. And then yet last night I couldn't watch the Middlesbrough, I couldn't watch the Boro in Australia.
But on that note, though, I know you have to pay to get it, and I know that obviously because it was the AFL Cup, there was AFL rights and stuff like that. But you can get the Boro on iFollow, can't you, or through the website? And
yeah, I can. That's how I get it. That's how.
Not
yeah,
last night,
every weekend.
Not last night.
Not in the cup. Nah.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but not last night. But you can normally get them for league games through iFollow, can't
that's
you?
how I watch it every weekend. I pay £10 every game and get it here in Australia. As long as it's not televised. If it's then televised, then I have to,
then you can't,
you know, then I can't, because obviously Sky Sports has the rights and stuff. But every other game, I get it through iFollow through the club, and I get the season pass and stuff like that. So that's how I normally do it. But for any cup game and the FA Cup game, or, you know, if we go on a massive cup run, unless it gets to the final stages when the games are, there's no other games to show, so they have to show that. It's normally, you know, Boro normally don't get the pick of being shown here in Australia. You know, it's normally, like last night was when Tottenham and Fulham were playing, they're hands down going to show that one before they pick the Boro game.
Steve, Steve, is the answer to this looking at, I mean, part of the answer to this, because I know the EFL Cup has a unique situation in terms of TV coverage, but is part of this to try and get rid of the 3 o'clock or the 3 till 5 blackout that's been there since time began? Because if, for example, Sunderland Southampton was a 3 o'clock kickoff, or Newcastle at Brighton was a 3 o'clock kickoff, would that not help?
Yeah, potentially. I just think the problem is TV has too much control, and it has for a long time now. I think we're going to go through a change over the next couple of years. I think TV rights are up for grabs very soon again. I think clubs will eventually try and take control of televising games themselves. We've seen for the last few years, of course, Liverpool TV, Manchester United TV are available on Sky packages. I think the frustrating thing for supporters is, when you pay your money, you should get the rights to be able to watch the football that you want to watch, but it just doesn't work like that. You have to pay to have Sky, you have to pay to have TNT now, which of course used to be BT Sport. In the past we used to have Setanta, which we had to pay for additionally. Then you have to have a different subscription now for Amazon for certain games if Amazon get them. Once upon a time you could just watch sport on terrestrial TV and you didn't have to worry about this. You paid your TV license and you just had to watch it. But now there are so many different games going on to so many different channels. It's why people are turning to alternative methods. You know what I mean? It's why everybody was up in arms, I guess, about the whole Saudi situation as well. They were saying that they were illegally streaming the games and making them available worldwide, and that was one of the reasons why people were saying that the Newcastle takeover shouldn't be allowed, because they were bypassing the Premier League's bypassing the Premier League's coverage and ultimately affecting the broadcasting rights. So I think for me, there will be changes. I think Newcastle United will be involved as well. I think they eventually they will be able to broadcast their own games on their own channels, but they're going to have to pay for that. They're going to have to pay for the rights. It's going to be interesting to sit back and watch it. The fans will find a way of watching these games. Look, you can always go down and support your local boozer. And go and watch a game down there, or watch it in your local restaurant if they've got coverage. But you could go around your mate's house and you could all chip in. It's what people do in other countries. But it does leaves a nasty taste in the mouth. And I always thought this bubble would burst. I thought that the bubble would burst, and I thought that we would have seen a drop. But it just seems to be getting more and more bizarre. 115 million for a football player. When did you ever think we would hear that? Especially somebody who I think is, he's okay. He's a good player. Is he the best player in the world? Definitely not. And there's somebody who's paid 115 million pound for that player. The wages are crazy, lads, as well. We're talking about countries, starving to death, and you've got players who are making £750,000 with to £1 million a week on contracts in different countries. It's crazy, man. Let's get some perspective here. Really, it's
incredible. We saw Declan Rice. So Declan Rice was a massive one to Arsenal in the off season. And we've seen West Ham turn that into three amazing midfielders with the one sale of one midfielder. It's incredible what resources some of these clubs have to spend on one player, and then the other club that the selling club can then turn that into. I mean, West Ham turned that into James Ward-Prowse, who was amazing for Southampton last season. So it's incredible some of the figures, and I think they're only going up, which is scary. And we have, like we've spoken about again, the Saudi Arabian League and stuff like that. When they're starting to come in and starting to bid for players, it's only driving the players' prices up. If there's more competition, then the more it's like an auction, then, isn't it? I mean, we saw it with Chuba Akpom. We had like 3 or 4 different clubs bidding on one player, and it just drives the prices up. And for instance, for us to get 12.5 mil, as much as it hurts me to pull 12.5 million out for Chuba Akpom sale, that was incredible for the Borough, and what we can use for that.
PFA Player of the Year, Championship PFA Player of the Year.
Yeah, incredible. But yeah, it's wild. And you see some of the championship numbers now getting around, like some of the boys that we're there. We see Jokeres going around for, I think he went for 15 mil. These are championship level players now. Demanding 10 million and upwards. So it's incredible.
You'll have noticed I'm keeping quiet on this because this is absolutely a sweet spot for me, because part of the work I was doing for FIFA over the last 2.5 years was centred on media rights. So it's obviously it's an industry I'm inside of, and I spend a lot of my time, even now though I'm not with the organisation, keeping an eye on the industry and what's happening. And for me, I think the next move you're going to see, because cord cutting's a big problem now. Subscription burnout is a big problem for football fans. Yeah. It's not just football, it's not just sport. It's for movie channels, it's for all kinds of things, general entertainment channels. So I think the next move is going to come from the US, is what we're seeing in the US, which could well be the Premier League itself creating a season pass. And it could be the Premier League in its next round of media rights negotiations that starts creating carve-outs in those negotiations for them to do something themselves. Now, if the Premier League do it, you can guarantee in a couple of years after that, the EFL will start looking at it. So it could well be, because you've got this with, Major League Baseball, the NFL, all that sort of stuff in the US.
TV,
I think that's where it's going to go. That's where it's going to go.
Yeah.
And for you, right, you could spend your money with the EFL and buy a season pass and see every game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a smart, this is a very good point. I follow the NFL closely. I'm a big Dallas Cowboys fan. And to get that, I can buy the NFL package that gives me any access to any NFL game, no matter what it is, what, type of game it is. I can watch the games for the whole season. And I think that's definitely the way that, seems to be going. And I think it's like you talk about subscription burnout, and Steve touched on it as well. How many different subscriptions you need now to watch one game of football? We have now in Australia BN Sports. Have just been launched here, and that's how I could watch a cup game. But then I have to pay a subscription, and then they only have the rights to 3 games, on the day that the cup games play. So I'm paying for $24.95 Australian for a subscription that I might get to see or I might not get to see. So if the Premier League did launch their own TV, I think that's and you can watch any game what you think. I think that might be the way of the future. But I do also like the idea of club TV.
Do you know what though? I'm so glad that I'm blind, because I don't need to think about TV and subscribe. No, I know, we joke, but I'm honestly being serious, because I don't have to think about TV. I don't have to think about loads of subscriptions, just a subscription to to Sunderland TV and to Hibs TV. So, and I can get the audio commentary, and I'm just so grateful for that. And I do hope that when they do bring these subscriptions out, and obviously because they'll obviously have the TV and stuff like that and the pictures, I really do hope they don't forget about the audio commentary and just get rid of the audio commentary, because there's not just me, but there's loads of people that rely on the audio commentary, and it's crucial. So I hope while I do hope that they make it affordable for the fans with regards to the TV subscriptions, please don't get rid of the audio commentary, because that's massive.
Well, that's just a can of worms anyway, because as it currently is, I mean, look, we've got 3 radio stations here, which are all leaning into the football community, whether it's Newcastle community, Sunderland or Boro. Our aim is, in a couple of years' time, we want to be bidding for commentary rights on the radio. But even then, you only get the rights to broadcast to your region. You can't right now. You can't stream it online, because that's got to sit behind a paywall as part of the EFL agreement. So football clubs have to have a paywall that the audio they can use for fans abroad to hook into. And I don't know if that's where you listen to Mado and the likes, Rye, when you can't see a game on a live stream. But that's even a can of worms right now. It's not it's not as straightforward as saying, let's just make the radio commentary available around the world. You can't do it. But anyway, something you touched on there, Steve. You mentioned Tuba and the EFL awards. Well, you've got your own, haven't you? Trippier, isn't he one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League?
Yeah, Trippier's done well, hasn't he, since he came to Newcastle? Certainly a key signing, and he's been named in the PFA Premier League Team of the Year for 22-23. But yeah, on and off the pitch, Kieran Trippier has been a great example, and I think a key part of Eddie's team, a key part of the squad, and really the first signing, I think, as well, which showed that somebody was willing to make that jump. I mean, we've watched the Amazon documentary, and Kieran Trippier and his wife were on there. It seems to be that she just didn't settle in Spain. He needed an avenue out of there, and Newcastle were the team who were willing to spend the money. The fact that he took a pay cut to come to Newcastle as well, I think, says a lot about the guy's character. He was certainly wanting to keep the missus happy and get back home. And Newcastle at the end of the day was a good option for him, but they were bottom of the league. His opening fixture for Newcastle was against Cambridge in the FA Cup at St James's Park, and we duly got beat 1-0. And he was probably scratching his head thinking, what am I doing here? But that game, I remember watching Kieran Trippier thinking, wow, we've got a player here. And yeah, he's getting older. I think he'll still I still think he'll be selected for the England squad today, which I know we're going to come on to before the end of the show.
Yeah.
But he's just a consummate professional. He's still got the skills, and for me, I'll always be eternally grateful that he chose to come to Newcastle and help kickstart the Saudi money revolution, lads.
It's good for me. It's good to see. You know what I mean? It's good to see a Newcastle United player in there, because we saw the PFA Premier League team announced, and if you haven't heard it, the team is Aaron Ramsdale, Kieran Trippier, William Saliba, John Stones, Ruben Dias, Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, Harry Kane, and Erling Haaland. Now, if you have any football knowledge, you'll know that team is absolutely dominated by Arsenal and Man City there, to the absolute nth degree. So to see a Newcastle United player and Harry Kane, that's pretty much it. From the league of 18, 19 teams, it's incredible that the domination of those two teams in that thing. So for Kieran Trippier to be to hold the best right back in the league, it is incredible, and it's good to see that it doesn't have to be the top two teams in Arsenal and Man City. That there are a lot of good players at all the other clubs.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate, definitely. It's great. It's just great to see, as you say, and it's a great team for Kieran Trippier to be selected as part of that. Haaland, of course, had a wonderful season last season, and rightly named Player of the Year. And he's just a goal scorer. Everybody wishes that.
Is he the best player in the world right now, Steve?
Certainly up there in the top three centre forwards, isn't he? Harry Kane has still got to be classified as one of the best. I think Haaland as well, and then you could take your pick from any one of the top internationals around the world who bangs goals in the back of the net. But yeah, just for players that I've actually physically seen, on a week-to-week basis in the Premier League and seen live, you're hard pushed to beat those two. They're absolutely great. I mean, I love watching that Liverpool trio, Firmino, Salah, and they had such a great forward line and Mane, but obviously that's gone now. But those two, Haaland and Kane, you're hard pushed to find people who are just good at finishing goals from all different angles.
Yeah, for me, Haaland is the best player in the world right now.
I'm just going to ask Stevie. Sorry, I'm just going to ask you, Steve. Obviously, you said you liked watching that Liverpool trio. Did you like watching Liverpool on Sunday?
Thoroughly, yeah. They were, you know what? I'm a football fan, Macca, and it's always good to see teams do well, even if it's against your own team.
I can hear his teeth gritted, mate.
Yeah, grinding away. The enamel was falling away. Off. Yeah.
Yes, we do. Oh,
Steve, I think
what do you guys think?
I think the response from you should be, how many Sunderland fans are in the EFL team?
Yeah, exactly. Not many at all.
Yeah.
Are there any?
Yeah.
No.
Macca, are there any Sunderland players in that EFL team?
No, probably none, I imagine.
Well, there you go.
I don't think so.
Just sitting back smug because we've got Chuba in there.
We're all about the here and now, so we're just hoping we can sort it out.
Well, that's it. In the here and now tonight, Newcastle and Middlesbrough will be in the Carabao Cup draw, and in the here and now tomorrow, Newcastle will be in the Champions League draw. That's where the here and now is, Macca.
Well, I don't know how long you'll be in the Champions League for, but I suppose you'll enjoy it while you're in it.
Well, we've never seen a Mackem in Milan, mate.
Hey.
Okay.
I love the way this is plumbing to the bottom of rivalry radio talk. We love it.
England, lads. Last
you mentioned
10 minutes.
England.
England getting selected this afternoon. We saw an article come out today. Obviously, the England squad announcement. We got the international break after this weekend. I think it's a very interesting time for Gareth Southgate and England and the selection that'll come out this afternoon. There's a lot of question marks out of it, the notable things. We know Gareth Southgate, loves his players. He picks his tried and trusted players no matter what's happening at club level. We see the Harry Maguires and stuff like that. But I think this afternoon is going to have to really strain the selectors and also Southgate, which could be a very interesting time. We saw Jordan Henderson obviously in a very surprising and well media covered move to Saudi Arabia. We even saw that Southgate had spoken to Henderson about what it might mean for him moving to Saudi Arabia and then him to England, continue. We've got Harry Maguire, obviously the issue, will Harry Maguire get picked? He seems to always perform for England, but at club level, he's not doing too well. You've got Calvin Phillips there as well, who, hasn't played a minute for Man City this season at all. Is a stalwart of that England midfield. So we got a few question marks, and I'd love to ask for the guys that are based in England. What are we thinking? Are we going to see Southgate go with his tried and trusted, or is it time that we start seeing some of these youngsters, some of these more exciting, their future of England come in for the likes of Calvin Phillips, who's not getting a game, the likes of Harry Maguire, and the likes of Jordan Henderson?
For me, really, I think with the England squad, I think I said this yesterday. I think it's time for a new manager. Once we get these tournaments out the way, because I just think he's gone stale. I don't think there's the level of support for England from the nation, if you like. I think people have switched off to Southgate. He had that wonderful period where everybody was behind him, the nation was behind him, but I am bored of Gareth Southgate. I don't enjoy watching his England teams play, and I just think he's got into that routine of picking players for picking players' sake. I don't know why he travels around the UK and sits in the various directors' boxes and watches the games, because he doesn't seem to pick anybody different. I read the article that you've read there, and I can't see how he can pick Henderson. He's not watching him on a regular basis, and he is somebody now who he's 33-year-old. He's not the player that he was. I can't see him picking him. Harry Maguire isn't playing football at this moment in time, so he can't pick Harry Maguire. The guy's 30 years of age. He's not kicking a football, so how on earth can you pick him? What, of past glories? I would pick Raheem Sterling. I think Sterling, at the end of the day, is a player in form. Gareth Southgate has always said that he picks players in form. Well, let's see whether he puts his money where his mouth is.
That's true, yeah.
Let's see if he puts his money where his mouth is. But it is time to bring in the youngsters.
Calvin Phillips, 27 years old, is a stalwart of that. Hasn't featured for Man City at all this season. Hasn't played, since that 7-0 win over North Macedonia in June. Does Calvin Phillips walk into that squad?
I genuinely don't think so, because there's other players who are getting games. I know we're only a few games into the Premier League season, right? But there are players who started well, and some of the potential call-ups, me and you both probably read the same article, but I think a few of the potential call-ups that were suggested are probably steps in the right direction. Solly March has had excellent form. He's somebody who could be picked. Lewis Dunk has played well. He could be a potential call-up. But West Ham, at this moment in time, are a form team. James Ward-Prowse, is in and around that area. Jared Bowen has been equally as good. And James Maddison, who was moved a big money move to Tottenham, despite the Carabao Cup exit last night, has looked a player. And he's impressed in a white shirt for England before. So for me, yes, I think there's an opportunity there. I think Newcastle's players, Kieran Trippier will certainly feature. Has to be. I think it's touch and go for Callum Wilson. He has played, but he hasn't scored. But I think it's him and Haaland are the current Premier League top scorers since April. Okay. I think Callum's on 12. I think Haaland's on 11. May have equalled it at the weekend with that penalty. But I think Wilson probably deserves his place. But it'll be interesting. Saka has played well. He started well for Arsenal despite the faltering form. He's done okay. But I think let's start looking at the youngsters and bringing them in. But I don't think Gareth will.
Fellas, we've got 30 seconds. We've got 30 seconds left. Let's give Macca a shout. Macca, what's your thoughts on England?
Go, Macca, go.
All I'll say about England is that they'll need the best squad that they can get to play Scotland on the 12th of September at Hampden. So
there you go. I had a feeling we might have a jock reference. Fellas, we're out of time. We're done. So cracking show. Thanks for your time, Macca. Thanks again, mate. We will talk very soon.
No problem.
Thanks for coming on as our semi-resident Sunderland fan. And Rye, it's evening time. It's Feed the Bairns. It's all that sort of stuff. Enjoy the temperatures, because it's 10 degrees outside here in the UK. Can you believe that? Middle of summer. Yeah. It's warmer coming out of winter in Australia. And Steve, same again tomorrow, mate.
Look forward to it, and look forward to the cup draw tonight as well. Let's hope we're celebrating Boro versus Newcastle tomorrow.
See you all tomorrow, guys.
Plug.
My debut 1990 September, Bristol City away, to get that opportunity what thousands of Geordies only dream of.
Hignett.
Playing against Chelsea and to score the first goal there is something that still lives with me now, and it's what most people will talk to me about.
Williams.
My first goal for Sunderland away at Leicester. It was a left foot volley. I didn't realise my left foot was for kicking a ball with as well. I thought it was just for standing up.
Across the northeast, it's the three legends.
Fridays at 6 on the Cats, the Reds and the Toon.
Steve and Rye. The Northeast Footy Breakfast.
The Cats, the Toon and the